have taken my time in recording this video response to my cousins, Beatrick, Gerald, and Zena Haddon. I wanted to be thoughtful. I wanted to be discerning in my response, which is much more than I can say about my cousin Dietrich's response to me. Anywho, I think it's important to note that the main question that is being asked about me posting the video and tagging my cousin and saying his name in the video, the main question is if this is a clout chase, if I have used their name to sell books to further my aims. And I like to respond with a question. Would that be wrong? Let's say that is my motivation or a part of my motivation. What issue would you have? So we're just going to put a pin in that for now. And let me ask that question again at the end of the series. I am not glammed up. I'm not even made up. My hair is wrapped up. I'm doing a conditioning treatment. And if you don't mind, I'd like to do my little self-care facial while I share this story with you. So I want to paint the picture for you. Put yourself in the place of a child, a young girl. Think about this story from the perspective of a daughter. And I'll tell you how your name came up in this story. I wasn't the one who brought up your name. In fact, I'm not even accusing you of anything. I am asking the question from the discerning mind of not only a little girl, but a grown woman who is seeking answers. But let's go back. I've shared these stories with you in previous story times. But we went to Germany twice. And the second time we went to Germany is when I believe, or the earliest memory of when the Haddon name really became an issue. Now, mind you, the first time we were in Germany was this random hitman that didn't have a face, didn't have a figure, was just a ghost. And there was no face to put to this ghost. It was just anybody could have been the hitman. And at some point, as always I can remember, it soon became the Haddons. And I don't know, maybe it was around the time where Dietrich released maybe his first album. And around this time, we didn't have social media, right? Once we left the family, there was really no way of me keeping up with them. There was no way that I could follow them on social media or keep up with them in email or text or messenger or anything like that. None of that was in existence at this time. So the most that I saw once we left Detroit was my cousin being on the cover of a CD, I was so proud because it was family. It was like a lot of the family were so talented and everybody had gifts. If you could just think of a family that was just so talented and so spiritual. It's a lot to be proud of with the Laster family. And so we first began to see you on a CD cover. And we also saw the family, right? Because once you started to rise, you put all the cousins on too. It was like everybody was on the cover and it was like a family thing. And I was so proud. I would see it. And I wanted to be a part of it, but I was proud of it just from it being cousins. It wasn't like I was ever jealous or anything like that. It was just like, that's so great. And of course I knew that if I was there, I would be a part of it and I'd be all in the middle of everything that the family was doing if I was there, if we were allowed to. But maybe around that time is when this story was created. And I say it was a story because now, in hindsight, I believe that my father was jealous that the Haddon name, and it wasn't really even your father's name that came up, that Dietrich had his father, it was Dietrich's name. And at that time, we called him Didi. Everybody had nicknames. My nickname was Lolo. We called Dietrich Didi. And so my father always would bring up your name, Didi, and Didi. And even though we were so proud and we saw you on CD cover and we saw that all the family was together and everybody seemed happy and you were doing things for God, your music was good music that had an uplifting message. It wasn't like you were doing anything bad. And I couldn't understand it, but I couldn't question it. I could never question it because whenever there was a question, I was scolded. I was reprimanded. I was accused of being disloyal and fraternizing. Like I said in the video before, I was accused of fraternizing with my father's enemies. And if you can imagine the dissonance of a little girl hearing your father say, these are my enemies and they're trying to kill me, but looking on your family on the CD cover and saying that everybody's together and everybody seems happy and everybody's being family. So what is it about us? What is it? What happened? Or I could never question. I could never ask, is it true even? I could never even ask if it's true. And so over the years, he kept bringing up your name. And it was weird because while we supported you, we sung your songs in church. Like one of like our favorite songs, "We welcome you. We welcome you." Like my favorite, and I sung this in praise and worship. I was a praise and worship leader, so I'm not far removed from the pattern that all of the family took with church leadership and singing and worshiping and praising God. But my favorite was Outpour. And when I tell you, I would sing that song down. We would tear the church down with that song. It'd be like everybody on the floor, like, no, on the floor, laid out. Every time I would sing that song, it was like, we need an outpour of your Spirit. We need an outpour of your Spirit, Lord. Send it down. Send it down. We need it, Lord. It's been like a lot of years since I've sang, but it's a little rough. But I would tear the church down with that song. So it was always so confusing to me. There was even a family reunion that we went to. And I would say that the first time that I really began to question if it was true, when I was a teenager, because when I was a teenager, we came to the family reunion. And it was like, my father was interacting and mingling with a lot of the family members, but these were the same family members that he told us not to. And even there, he told us not to, but he would. And it was crazy to me because it's like, if they're trying to kill you, you, then why are you talking to him? But I could never ask that question. I'm telling you, if I asked it, if I even hinted towards it, we talked about it. I talked about it a few times over the years. Mostly, like Jay wanted to do collaborations with Didi. At that time, my second oldest brother was in singing ministry, and he was teetering between R&B and gospel, so he did both. And so he wanted to collaborate with the family and with Didi. And even still, my father like had a fit. And so it became a taboo to talk about y'all, or to ask any questions, or to mingle, or to even hint at being a part of family gatherings or anything. But he would. And he created this story that it was, and it wasn't like he was saying that you did anything specifically, but because he brought up your name so much, he made you the enemy. And it was never anything concrete or never anything that we could say in your behavior or any other family's behavior that ever gave validity to anything that he said. So you can imagine how confusing this was for me as a child. So probably like around in my early 20s, I think I was more of an adult. I started having children of my own. I started questioning things more. But then it just took a backseat because it's like if I was never involved with the family before, then I can't do it right now because first of all, I don't really know if it's true. And I don't want to upset my father, so I might as well just leave it alone, you know? It's worse if I try to push it. And of course, life happens. You have kids, go to school, you try to find a job, you're trying to make it. And so all of that is pushed to the back burner, but it's not really pushed to the back burner, if you know what I mean. Like it still presents itself. It still comes up. And so now at this point, the social media is coming up, and now I'm like seeing the family even more. But I'm an adult. I have 2 kids at this point. I have a career and I have all this stuff going on, but there's still this trauma, this heartbreak, this pain, this distance, this story, this lie. I don't even know. I can say that I don't believe it, but I can't say that I know. And I think that's partially what's so unfair about your response to me is because you expect me to know definitively, like I know him, like I know anything, if you care at all. Put yourself in the mind of a child who is just listening to her father. And her father has demonized an entire section of the family. So not only have you been taken from this family and put in a foreign country where you don't even speak the language as a child, you have no outlet, you have no way of communicating, you have no resources, you have no support. Your family is your support. So whatever abuses you're experiencing, that I was experiencing, whatever questions I had in my mind, I couldn't bring those up. What would I do? What could I possibly do? Even in trying to make sense of this. And I didn't really know to question it. And so even now, so I think back like on the family, like over the years, I would see family together and there's events and there's like all these things happening in the families together. And I would see it on social media and I was just like, I was so proud. So it was never any like jealousy or envy. Only I just wish I was a part of it too. Like I know that if circumstances would have been different, then I would have been all up in the mix too. I would have been all up in the family stuff. But I just never had the opportunity. In fact, I was robbed of the opportunity. I was robbed. I was robbed of getting to know you, getting to know you all. But not only was I robbed of getting to know you, but the image that was created of you was scary. It was dangerous. So even as an adult, when I had all these questions and I wanted to ask them myself and just seek that knowledge for myself, I still feared it. And I remember at grandma's funeral, me and you sat together. We sat right next to each other. It was you, it was Dominique, and she was holding the baby. You were so distraught. You had grandma on one of the songs when she said bye bye for now. That's why I say bye bye for now in my videos. That's like a tribute to grandma. And Dominique was comforting you. And so I grabbed the baby and was holding the baby while she was comforting you. And then of course y'all went up to Dominique and go. She stayed sitting down. And I stayed sitting down too. But you went up to sing. Just wanna make it to heaven. Just wanna make it in. And I didn't sing with the family. All the cousins got up, but I didn't do it because I never felt like I was a part of it. I never was a part of it. I never was allowed to be. And even when the opportunity was presented to me to just have that one dream fulfilled, to sing with all the rest of the cousins, I didn't do it. I just stayed sitting there. I think I'll forever regret that. But anyways, so at some point, it stopped being Didi. It stopped being like Didi this, Didi that, and it started being Haddon. It was like Haddon, it's Haddon, it's. He was always Haddon, it's Haddon. So it was like that name. Like the name was always associated with danger, with fear, with a childhood that was terrible, tumultuous. And at some point, my father began to blame you for abusing us and saying that it was because of these threats on his life and having to flee Detroit and the issues that he had with Haddon. So now, as my story is coming out and I'm talking about my childhood, it's inevitable that your name is going to come up. And I totally understand that hearing my story makes you uncomfortable and you're wondering, like, what do I have to do with this? But it's my truth. And you can't erase my truth. I can't erase my truth just to accommodate you, just to ease your discomfort. And what I've shared, they're not fabrications. The people involved, including your father, they played a role in my lived experience. And even though now I want to believe that it's not true. But then you have to realize that then that opens up another pit of confusion. That everything that I believed, everything that I thought, was it even true? I respect you guys, I love you. But it doesn't mean silencing myself to protect reputations, to protect the name. I encourage you to look at the reality of the situation rather than attempting to erase my truth. You don't have to agree, but you don't get to dictate how I tell my story. And I want to use this moment as a teachable moment because what we don't realize is that most times unintentionally, we engage in mob-like behavior, not realizing that we are supporting the manipulative, abusive narcissist that's at the center of it all, like my father. And because 3 of you got on in my comments and I received a private message from another family member, I did feel mobbed, I did feel bullied. And I challenge you to really think about the systems that are at play here, that when a victim speaks out about their pain, they somehow become the villain. In the next video, a breakdown of what was said. I want to use this as a teachable moment